Good morning everyone, especially to my instructor, Doc Alpe. I'm Desiree D. Cervantes from FMGT3B, and today I'll be discussing a very important topic, which is about the liquidation reports of disbursement of budget allocations for various government agencies in the Philippines from 2000 to 2020. Before we dive in, let's clarify what public funds mean. Public funds are the resources collected from taxpayers and allocated by the government for various purposes like infrastructure, social services, health, and education. It's crucial to ensure these funds are used efficiently and transparently. Liquidation reports, on the other hand, detail how government agencies spend their allocated budgets. They show how much money was received or allocation, how much was spent or disbursement, and whether proper documentation exists to justify the spending or liquidation. When the government allocates funds to an agency, those funds need to be spent on approved projects and properly accounted for. The liquidation rate indicates the percentage of disbursed funds that have been documented and justified through receipts and other supporting documents. A high liquidation rate suggests responsible financial management, while a low rate raises concerns about potential misuse or inefficiency. My research focused on the liquidation reports of the Philippine government from 2000 to 2020, specifically for the Senate of the Philippines, House of Representatives, Office of the President, Department of Agriculture, Department of Social Welfare and Development, Department of Health, Department of Justice, and Department of Labor and Employment. So now, let's look at the key findings for some key government agencies. Let's start with the Senate of the Philippines. The budget allotments and disbursement for the Senate have steadily increased over the years, reaching over 10 billion pesos in allotments in 2020. However, the liquidation rates have declined, dropping from around 80% in the earlier years to just 44.54% in 2020. This suggests potential issues with the timely and proper accounting of disbursed funds by the Senate, raising concerns about the transparency and accountability in the management of public funds allocated to the legislative branch. Moving on to the House of Representatives, the budget allotments and disbursement have also steadily increased, reaching over 17 billion pesos in allotments and 15 billion pesos in disbursement in 2020. The liquidation rates have fluctuated but have generally remained above 70% through that period, which indicates that the House has maintained reasonably high levels of accountability and responsible utilization of public funds. The Office of the President, on the other hand, presents a more concerning picture. The budget allotments and disbursement have fluctuated significantly, and the liquidation rates have been inconsistent, with some years showing high rates and others extremely low. The wide fluctuations and very low liquidation rates in certain years, such as 0.06% in 2015 and 0.05% in 2017, raise serious concerns about the transparency and accountability in the management of public funds allocated to the highest office in the land. Turning to the Department of Agriculture and its bureaus, the summary of liquidation reports reveals significant fluctuations in the liquidation rates. While the rates were relatively high in 2000 to 2001, they dropped sharply in 2003 to 2004, reaching as low as 3.81% in 2004. The wide variations and generally low rates in subsequent years raise concerns about the transparency and accountability in the utilization of public funds allocated to the department and its bureaus. The Department of Social Welfare and Development has also experienced fluctuations in its liquidation rates. The budget allotments and disbursements have increased significantly, reaching over 378 billion pesos in allotments and 315 billion pesos in disbursements in 2020. However, the liquidation rates have varied, with some years showing very low rates such as 19.67 to 54.02 in 2003 to 2006. The inconsistencies in the DSWD's financial management practices are concerning, as the department is responsible for administering critical social welfare programs. The DOH has also exhibited significant variation in its liquidation rates, with some years showing extremely low figures such as 27.74 in 2011. The wide fluctuations and generally low rates in certain periods raise concerns about the transparency and accountability in the utilization of public funds allocated to the department. In contrast, the DOJ and the DOLE have demonstrated more positive trends in their liquidation rates. The DOJ has made progress in improving the liquidation of its budget disbursement, with most years showing rates above 70% and several instances of exceptional performance such as 93.33% in 2010. DOLE has also maintained reasonably high liquidation rates, generally above 60%, with some years showing rates above 80%. So overall, the summary of liquidation reports for these government agencies highlights the importance of strengthening financial management practices, enhancing transparency and accountability, and ensuring the responsible utilization of public funds. As a future public finance professional, I recognize the critical role I have in advocating for these principles and working towards improving the management of taxpayer resources. So, these findings showcase the varying degrees of transparency and accountability across different government agencies. Low liquidation rates can indicate weaknesses in financial management, potential misuse of funds, or a lack of proper documentation. This can erode public trust in the government and hinder effective use of public resources for the benefit of Filipinos. Now, why do you think we need to study these topics in public finance? First, understanding vulnerabilities. By studying real-world examples, we gain insight into the vulnerabilities within public finance systems. This knowledge is crucial for future professionals who might work in government finance or advocate for good governance. Second, importance of transparency and accountability. This analysis emphasizes the importance of transparent budgeting processes and robust accountability mechanisms to ensure public funds are used effectively. Third, critical thinking and problem solving. Analyzing complex cases like this develops critical thinking and problem solving skills. We learn to identify weaknesses in systems, evaluate potential solutions, and understand the broader implications of financial mismanagement. Fourth, historical context and public awareness. The case studies highlight challenges of corruption and the importance of citizen vigilance in upholding good governance. So in conclusion, public finance transparency and accountability are crucial for ensuring the responsible use of taxpayer money. By understanding these issues and advocating for reform, we can work towards a more efficient and trustworthy government that serves the Filipino people effectively. So thank you for your attention, and I hope this presentation has provided you with a comprehensive understanding of the key findings from the liquidation reports. So now, let us proceed to the second part of my discussion, which tackles the case digest of the Janet Napoles involvement in the corruption scam. Janet Lim Napoles was at the center of the Priority Development Assistance Fund, or PDAF, which is also known as the Pork Barrel Scam, which was one of the most high-profile corruption controversies to hit the Philippine government. The scam involved legislators conspiring with government officials and private entities to divert public funds for their own personal gain. Napoles, known as the Pork Barrel Queen, orchestrated an elaborate scheme to funnel PDAF money into her own non-governmental organizations or NGOs through a network of dummy foundations and corrupt officials. Napoles, as the alleged Pork Barrel Queen, devised a scheme where fictitious transactions appeared to be legitimate government projects. The scam involved the following steps. The first one, Napoles negotiated with legislators on the utilization of their PDAF allocations, agreeing on a list of projects, implementing agencies, project costs, and kickbacks for the legislators' 40 to 60% of project's costs. Second, Napoles instructed her employees to prepare the project listings, which were then adopted by the legislator in requesting PDAF release. Third, the Appropriations Committee endorsed the request to the Budget Department, which issued allotment release orders to the chosen implementing agencies. Fourth, the agency heads, in exchange for a 10% share, released checks to Napoles' fake NGOs, which were immediately withdrawn. And last, only Napoles, the legislators, and their co-conspirators benefited from the PDAF disbursement, with no funds spent on the intended projects or district. Here's some facts naman about Napoles' case. Janet Lim Napoles, a businesswoman, was accused of being the mastermind behind a massive corruption scheme involving millions of pesos in Philippine government funds. This scheme, known as the Pork Barrel Scam or PDAF scam, centered on the misuse of Priority Development Assistance Fund, a discretionary fund allocated to the legislators for development projects in their constituencies, and the prosecution alleged that Napoles operated a network of bogus non-governmental organizations that serves as conduits for siphoning of PDAF funds. Legislators would endorse their PDAF allocations to these NGOs, which were allegedly controlled by Napoles. The NGOs would then submit inflated project proposals and falsified documents to justify the release of funds. Napoles and her associates would allegedly receive a significant kickback or commission from disbursed funds, and this scheme reportedly ran for several years involving billions of pesos in public funds. Now, here's some issues surrounding them. Did Janet Lim Napoles conspire with government officials to misuse PDAF funds? Were the NGOs linked to Napoles' legitimate entities, or were they used as fronts or illegal activities? Did the accused government officials violate the anti-funder law and other anti-graft and corruption laws? So, the PDAF, also known as Pork Barrel, was a program implemented in 1990 that allowed legislators to fund small-scale infrastructure or community projects outside the scope of the National Infrastructure Program. However, the Supreme Court later ruled the PDAF as unconstitutional. Napoles was linked to the alleged misuse of PDAF funds together with several Philippine senators and congressmen including Bong Revilla, Jinggoy Estrada, and Juan Ponce Enrile. She was convicted of plunder in 2018 for her involvement in the PDAF scam, with a conviction upheld by the Sandigan Bayan Anti-Graft Court in 2019. Next is witness protection and whistleblowers. The scam was exposed when Ben Herloy, our former Napoles employee, sought help from law enforcement after being illegally detained by Napoles. Louis, a close relative of Napoles, was detained for 3 months due to fears that he will disclose information about the scam. In 2015, Napoles was found guilty beyond reasonable doubt and sentenced to reclusion perpetua up to 40 years imprisonment for the illegal detention of Lloyd. Other whistleblowers included former female employees of Napoles who facilitated the registration of the fake NGOs, secured government licenses and permits, deposited and cashed checks, and fabricated documents to expedite PDAF releases. The whistleblowers faced threats to their lives and limited sources of income after testifying against Napoles. Here's some reasoning. The Sandigan Bayan based its decision on the testimonies of whistleblowers, documentary evidence, and a paper trail linking Napoles NGOs to lawmakers and the disbursement of PDAF funds. The court found that the prosecution had established beyond reasonable doubt that Napoles was a key player in the scheme and had personally profited from the misuse of public funds. For the convictions and sentences, over the years, Napoles has been convicted in multiple cases related to the PDAF scam. First, in 2021, she was convicted on 3 counts of graft and 3 counts of malversation along with Cagayan de Oro Rep. Constantino Haraula and 3 others in connection with the 10 billion pork barrel scam. Napoles was sentenced to 6 to 10 years imprisonment for each count of graft and 12 to 18 years for each count of malversation. Second, in October 2023, Napoles was convicted by the Sandigan Bayan of 9 counts of corruption of a public official, while former APEC party list Rep. Edgar Valdez was convicted of 9 counts of direct bribery. Third, also in October 23, the Sandigan Bayan convicted Napoles of 4 counts of graft and 4 counts of malversation of public funds in connection with the PDAF of former South Cotabato Rep. Arthur Pingoy Jr. Fourth, in January 2024, Napoles was convicted on 7 counts of corruption of public officials and sentenced to up to 62 years in prison. She was also ordered to pay a fine of 262 million with regards to PDAF funds of Senator Jinggoy Estrada. Estrada was convicted on 1 count of committing direct bribery and 2 counts of indirect bribery. As of October 2023, Napoles has been sentenced to a total of 103 years, 6 months, and 24 days imprisonment and ordered to pay a total of 241,820 million in fines related to the PDAF scam cases. However, Article 70 of the revised penal code limits the absolute sentence to 40 years, which can be further reduced with a good conduct time allowance law and time served before conviction. On this slide is the Sandigan Bayan's verdicts. The Sandigan Bayan, the Philippine court specializing in graft and corruption cases, delivered a series of landmark decisions throughout the lengthy legal proceedings. So, some of the key decisions: December 7, 2018, the Sandigan Bayan found Janet Napoles guilty of plunder in connection with the PDAF scam. This decision was upheld by the Anti-Graft Court's Appellate Division on March 13, 2019. Plunder is crime defined under Philippine law as the accumulation of ill-gotten wealth through a series of overt or covert criminal acts amassing an amount exceeding 50 million. On March 13, 2019, the Sandigan Bayan Appellate Division upheld the plunder conviction, solidifying the court's initial decision. On October 26, 2023, the Sandigan Bayan convicted Napoles of 9 counts of corruption of public official, while former APEC party list Rep. Edgar Valdez was convicted of 9 counts of direct bribery. This decision involved her dealings with Edgar Valdez and related to the bribing of government officials to secure projects approvals and fund releases through her NGOs. Napoles was also convicted of 4 counts of graft and 4 counts of malversation of public funds in connection with the scam. Other decisions are those numerous senators, congressmen, and government officials have also faced trial in connection with the Pork Barrel scam. Some have been convicted of various offenses, including plunder, malversation, and grafts. The Sandigan Bayan continues to hear cases related to this scam. On this slide are the facts. The Pork Barrel scam exposed a deep-seated culture of corruption in Philippine politics. It sparked public outrage and led to calls for reforms in the budgeting process and increased transparency in government spending. The case also highlighted the challenges of prosecuting complex corruption cases and the need for a more robust legal framework to combat graft and malpractice. On this slide is the acquittals and dissenting opinions. While Napoles and her staff were convicted in multiple cases, some legislators and officials involved in the scam were acquitted. In one case, former Ilocos Sur 1st District Representative Salaknib Baterina, who endorsed Napoles' NGOs for his PDAF allocation, was acquitted along with Budget Department officials who released a special allotment release order. In a dissenting opinion, Associate Justice Oscar Herrera disagreed with Baterina's acquittal, stating that his alibi of forged signatures was weak compared to witness testimony and evidence of his involvement. Herrera also expressed similar dissenting opinions in the acquittal of Senator Bong Revilla and the delayed cases against Senator Jinggoy Estrada and Presidential Legal Counsel Juan Ponce Enrile. So, in conclusion, the PDAF scam orchestrated by Janet Lynn Napoles exposed the widespread corruption in the Philippine government, with legislators, government officials, and private entities colluding to misuse public funds for personal gain. While Napoles and her staff have been convicted in multiple cases, some of the principal actors involved in the scam have been acquitted, raising questions about the influence of political patronage and selective prosecution in the judicial process. However, Napoles' convictions serve as a testament to the ongoing efforts to hold those responsible accountable for their actions. The Pork Barrel scam serves as a cautionary tale highlighting the importance of transparency, accountability, and a strong anti-corruption framework. While significant steps have been taken, the fight for a corruption-free Philippines is ongoing. It requires consistent efforts from government agencies, civil society organizations, and the Filipino people themselves. By promoting public awareness, advocating for reforms, and holding officials accountable, Filipinos can strive to build a more just and equitable society where public funds are used effectively for the benefit of all. So now, let us proceed to the third, which is also the last part of my discussion. which tackles the analysis and personal reflection on the summary of liquidation reports of disbursements of budget allocations for years 2000 to 2020 and case digest of the Janet Napoles involvement in the corruption scam as they relate to public finance. The case suggests on Janet Napoles' involvement in the Priority Development Assistance Fund corruption scandal in the Philippines provide a sobering look into the mismanagement and abuse of public finances. As a student studying public finance, I found this case to be a stark reminder of the importance of transparency, accountability, and ethical stewardship of taxpayers' money. Napoles' orchestration of the pork barrel scam exposed a deep-rooted corruption within the Philippine government, where legislators, government officials, and private entities colluded to divert public funds for their own personal gain. The sheer scale of the scam involving the siphoning of billions of pesos from government coffers is truly staggering. What struck me most was the brazen nature of the scheme, the fabrication of fictitious transactions, the kickbacks paid to lawmakers, and the lack of any meaningful oversight or consequences. So, this case highlights the critical need for robust financial controls, independent auditing, and whistleblower protections to safeguard public resources. From a public finance perspective, the Napoles scandal underscores the importance of aligning budget allocations and disbursement with the actual needs and priorities of the people. The diversion of funds away from legitimate development projects and social services is a betrayal of the public trust and a detriment to the overall well-being of the nation. The summary of liquidation reports for various government agencies from 2000 to 2020 has provided me with a sobering insight into the management of public funds in the Philippines. This study has been a valuable learning experience, allowing me to critically analyze the trends and implications of these financial reports as they relate to the principles of transparency, accountability, and responsible stewardship of taxpayer resources. The fluctuating liquidation rates of the Senate ranging from around 80% in the earlier years to just 44.54% in 2020 raised significant concerns about the consistency and reliability of their financial management practices. The sharp decline in recent years suggests a need for the Senate to strengthen its internal controls, enhance monitoring mechanisms, and improve the timeliness and accuracy of its liquidation reporting. As a future public finance professional, I am concerned about the potential misuse or misallocation of funds that could result from these inconsistencies. In contrast, the House of Representatives has maintained relatively high liquidation rates, generally above 70% throughout the reporting period. So this indicates a stronger commitment to responsible financial management and a more robust system of accountability. The consistent performance of the House in this regard is commendable and serves as a model for other government institutions to emulate. The liquidation reports for the Office of the President present a more troubling picture with wide fluctuations in the rates and several years showing extremely low figures such as 0.05% and 0.06%. These findings raise serious questions about the transparency and proper utilization of public funds allocated to the highest office in the land. As a student, I am deeply concerned about the potential for abuse and the erosion of public trust that such financial mismanagement can foster. The Department of Agriculture and its bureaus have also exhibited significant variations in their liquidation rates, with some years showing extremely low figures such as 3.81 in 2004, while the more recent years have seen improvements. The overall trend suggests a need for stronger internal controls, auditing, and reporting mechanisms to ensure the responsible management of agricultural development funds. DSWDs, on the other hand, liquidation reports present a mixed picture, with some years showing high rates above 80% and others dipping below 50%. The sharp declines in the early 2000s and the generally low rates in subsequent years are concerning, as the DSWD is responsible for the administration of critical social welfare programs that directly impact the lives of the most vulnerable members of society. The DOH, on the other hand, liquidation reports demonstrate a more positive trajectory, with the majority of years showing rates above 60% and several instances of exceptionally high performance such as 93.33% in 2010. So this suggests a stronger closure financial accountability within the department, which is crucial given the importance of healthcare services to the well-being of the nation. Department of Justice, on the other hand, liquidation reports are the most consistent among the agencies studied, with the majority of years showing rates above 70% and several instances of exceptional performance such as 93.33% in 2010. This level of financial accountability is commendable and serve as a model for other government institutions to emulate. Lawless liquidation reports, on the other hand, also exhibit a generally positive trend, with the majority of years showing rates above 70% and several instances of exceptional performance such as 88.8% in 2018. This consistency in financial management is a testament to the department's commitment to responsible stewardship of public funds. I believe Doc Alpe chose these specific institutions as the focus of our study for several strategic reasons. Firstly, by including the Senate, House of Representatives, and Office of the President. The study allows us to examine the financial management practices at the highest levels of the Philippine government, where the allocation and utilization of public funds have the most significant impact on the nation. Analyzing the inconsistencies and discrepancies in the liquidation rates of these powerful institutions underscores the critical need for strengthening transparency and accountability in the political sphere. Secondly, the inclusion of key line departments such as the Department of Agriculture, Department of Social Welfare and Development, Department of Health, Department of Justice, and Department of Labor and Employment, which provides a broader perspective on the financial management challenges faced by government agencies, which is responsible for delivering essential public services and programs. Evaluating the performance of this department in terms of their liquidation rates sheds light on the systematic issues that may be hindering the effective utilization of public resources. By tasking us to critically examine this diverse set of government entities, Doc Alpe has challenged us to develop a comprehensive understanding of the complexities and nuances involved in public finance management in the Philippines. So this holistic approach allows us to identify patterns, trends, and best practices that can inform policy recommendation and guide future reforms in the public sector. Ultimately, I believe my professor's selection of these agencies as the focus of our study reflects a strategic effort to equip us as future public finance professionals with the knowledge and analytical skills necessary to navigate the intricate landscape of government financial management. I believe to become effective advocates for transparency, accountability, and responsible stewardship of taxpayer, we should understand this topic. So, as for my personal reflection as a student of the public finance, I believe my professor assigned this study to underscore the critical importance of transparency, accountability, and ethical decision-making in the management of public resources. By examining the liquidation reports of various government agencies, we can gain valuable insights into the strengths and weaknesses of their financial management practices and identify areas for improvement. The wide variations in liquidations rates across the different agencies highlight the need for a more consistent and rigorous approach to public finance management. It is clear that some institutions have been more successful than others in maintaining high standards of accountability and responsible stewardship of taxpayer funds. This study has reinforced my commitment to being a champion of transparency and ethical conduct in the public sector. As a future finance professional, I recognize the immense responsibility I have to ensure that public resources are allocated and utilized in a manner that truly benefits the people we serve. Moreover, I believe Doc Alpe chose these specific agencies as the focus of our study because they represent a cross-section of the Philippine government encompassing the legislative, executive, and various line departments. By examining the financial management practices of these diverse institutions, we can gain a more comprehensive understanding of the challenges and best practices in public finance. So, to end this, in conclusion, the summary of liquidation reports for the period of 2000 to 2020 has provided me with a valuable learning experience shaping my perspectives on the importance of responsible financial management in the public sector. I am grateful for the opportunity to critically analyze these reports and reflect on my role as a future steward of public resources. So this study has strengthened my resolve to be a champion of transparency, accountability, and ethical decision-making in the field of public finance. So that will be all. Thank you so much for listening.